So good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hi, Marty.
Good to see you, and I'd like to welcome our very special guest, Maggie Rose Muldoon, all the way from our neighboring country of Canada. Nice of you to
Mhm.
join us. I'm Marty Keller in Sacramento. This is our Intentional Living podcast. It's our opportunity to share thoughts about the accountability practice, and we're especially tickled to have Maggie Rose join us today. Um, and I'm not going to uh, say a whole lot because I'm going to invite her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what brought you here.
Okay, so I've been uh, coming to the intentional living meetings first John Saturday meeting, and then I discovered the weekday meetings for I think it's over 2 years, a little bit over 2 years,
Wow.
and and I heard about both of those through people in ACA. Somehow or other, I've been in ACA a little over 2 years, well, probably 2.5 years. And somehow, after I was in for a while, not that long, I discovered the Sacramento groups. And then I kind of just stuck with those groups mostly, primarily. And so my friends and family and stuff are wonder why I'm always talking about this person in Sacramento, like how come you know so many people in Sacramento? But so I and then it was somebody from one of those meetings that first suggested getting on John's meeting. So
Mhm.
um, and I've been pretty regular since I started. Um, so and I've gotten and I've been in my first 12-step program was Al-Anon, and I was just trying to figure out the other day, I think that it's like 45 years ago when
Wow.
I
Wow.
went
Wow.
into
Wow.
Al-Anon. I don't go to Al-Anon meetings now, but I did for many, many years, and um, and that saved my life to start with. I mean, it really made big differences in my life. And then I'm in two other, well, I'm active in another 12-step program, Debtors Anonymous. And I've spent time in Overeaters Anonymous. Um, and so, but now pretty much I'm doing ACA and intentional living, except for DA. I still go to weekly meeting, at least weekly meetings in DA. And I've been in DA for 20 years and solvent, no debt for about 18 of those years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So,
Wow.
and I was in really big trouble. Anyway, so that's kind of how I got here. So,
So you've been doing this, you've been doing a lot of work for a long time.
yeah. And then, and I was going to say, and then I've had therapy and other things in the meantime. But when I got to ACA, it made a huge difference in, I really got to the piece that was missing for me. And then, I mean, the part about, being gentle with yourself instead of um, not even thinking about yourself or whatever, but,
Yeah.
and then I would say that grew even more with intentional living. So
Yeah.
it's been a big change in my life. Um, some of those in the last 2 years, last year and a half, I've been through a lot of stuff because my middle son, Anthony, had a severe stroke. And every time something like that happens in our family, all the dysfunction pops up, and everybody starts fighting with everyone else. And I had different tools. I still got involved in that stuff, but I had different tools to work with and different things to help me with. And I've learned a lot about my family of origin and my family with my 5 children that I had, and you know, just lots of stuff. And I and there's times I really use it, and there's times when I fall back into, I get triggered by something, and there I go. You know,
There you
so,
go.
yeah. But again, I know what to do. I mean, mostly, or I have guidance, some people who will help me what to do.
I have a
Last
question.
night,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I have a question, and so thank you for that overview. And so I'm curious, can you remember what it is that brought you to Adult Children of Alcoholics, ACA?
Yeah,
When you've been
uh,
involved in these other 12, very
yeah.
powerful and
I
useful
actually,
12-step programs.
I'd been in ACA for a while in the 80s,
Okay.
but wasn't anything like it is now. Um, um, but I've but it was the first 12-step program that I learned to have fun in. So that was
Oh,
and
man.
that was a group down in Minneapolis, and which is my original home. And and then I ended up moving and didn't, after a couple of years, and didn't go to any other meetings in the meantime. But I was talking to someone in OA. She was kind of a sponsor, one of my support person anyway. And
Mhm.
one day she said to me, "Have you ever thought about ACA?" She said, "You're really hard on yourself." And then she read me the ACA Serenity Prayer, and I thought, that's weird. and, and but it also made sense. But I can't even remember this woman's name, because it was sort of a short, was a kind of a round robin kind of thing that was going on. And
Mhm.
where you'd work with someone for 2 weeks, then you'd have another person for 2 weeks. And and she's the one that got me there. So I wish I did have her information so I could thank her for that. Um,
Mhm.
so and then I did after I started ACA, I did a year of trauma therapy. So because I knew I needed more. But what I've been having happen lately is lots of things sinking in or starting to mean something different to me um, than I've always thought, even inside of the program. And Marty's been a really big help to me. Not long ago, it was around what does love equal? Um, that concept. And um, I said some things, and Marty, and we'd talked about that before, because I just had, I was, my mother never liked me. Um, and or she had issues with me, and
Right.
there's a reason for it, and that is that a year before I was born, 13 months before I was born, she had her first child who died on the day of her birth. And
Mhm.
she was a very anxious and um, a fearful person anyway.
Mhm.
And then she got pregnant with me 4 months later. And I don't know much about it, but I can imagine how awful that was for her. I mean, how she didn't, how she would have just been so afraid, just
Yeah.
so full of fear. And she had very low self-esteem, and she, anyway, so for some, I have my own story similar to that, but I won't go into that. But she, having had lost my first child, but so I kind of understand it from the inside too. But she, I just think she couldn't bond with me, um, and she really wanted to have children, but I'm sure she was scared to death. Anyway, so the word that Marty came up with that fits so well for me is that love equals contempt.
Oh, wow.
And that really fits. It's taken a long time for me to, I mean, not from then, but when you said that, Marty, it's like, that's what I've been looking for, is that word, because everything I ever did, my mother told me I was doing wrong. I swept the floor wrong. I peeled potatoes backwards. I don't know how you can peel potatoes backwards, but
You
anyway,
probably put the toilet paper on wrong on the
we
roll.
didn't get into that,
Okay.
but it just like, you're doing that backwards, you're doing this, whatever. And in fact, before I was in kindergarten, I was jumping on the bed and reciting the alphabet backwards. And my mother totally freaked out because I was doing it backwards. She didn't like think, oh, this was really a precocious thing to be able to do it backwards. She thought my brain was on backwards or something. I mean, so there was just this continual being told I was not good enough. And so
Do you remember what you changed love equals contempt? What you changed it to?
the contempt is what I changed it to. It was abandonment before, I think,
Hmm.
abuse and abandonment,
Oh, I see.
which was good, but contempt just got to the core of it in a way that just really resonated with me.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, so I've been working on the Loving Parent Guidebook, the ACA book, with a
Hmm.
group of 2 other people. And last night the chapter was on distorted thinking. And I was doing this, so I was writing some things about all or nothing thinking, and um, rumination, worry, and a number of things. And and there was a question: what are your fears? And I started answering these questions, and Marty knows that I always, every time I get a headache or a hangnail or something, I think I'm going to die. And
Hmm.
recently I've had some tests on my heart, and I do have some issues with my heart. So uh, I just continue to think this is it. Like, I've been pretty healthy, but my whole life, but it's like, okay, it's caught up with me now because I haven't taken care of my body, because I don't exercise, because I eat too much. It's happening now. I knew it was going to happen. Um, and um, and so I've kind of been, so I wrote down some of these things, like fear of death, fear of getting some horrible disease, fear of um well, and when Marty and I've talked about it, it's like I deserve this because I've been such an awful person that it's going to catch up with me, and um, I'm a goner. Then I go do tests and go through the doctor and everything, and they go, "Oh, you're fine. Um, there's nothing really wrong. The heart doctor said, at the rate that this artery that's got sort of a bulge in it, the rate it's going, it'll probably be another 30 years before it's a serious problem. And I'm already 84. So, like, like I don't have to worry too much about that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was writing these things down about all these fears I'm going to be homeless, fears I'm going to um, just be totally cut off from my family. And then I looked at them and I thought, I don't think you're really afraid of these things.
Mm.
Like somehow well, and around the medical stuff, I, when I, let's see, I don't know how that happened. I was on a meeting and I was talking about that I'm really okay, that there's nothing seriously wrong with me. And I said something to my sister about, I wish I could get rid of this fear. And when I wrote this fear around my health and everything, and after I wrote this in a text to her, I looked at it and I thought, it's not my fear, it's my mother's fear. And since then, that fear is really reduced. It feels gone, really.
Uh-huh.
That I've been carrying my mother's fear around for 84 years.
Oh my God.
And so I was writing down these things that I'm afraid of, and I thought, I don't think you're afraid of these. I think this is just in your head that you think you're afraid of these things. I mean, there was a time when I was losing my house because of my debt and things, and maybe then I had some legitimate reason to think I might end up on the street. But I mean, that just would not happen.
Mm-hmm.
I could live in have to downsize from where I am, and I'm just in an apartment. I don't own property, but the amount of pension I get every month, unless both the government of the United States and the government of Canada went bankrupt or something, I won't be on the street, and then everybody else will be there anyway. So, so it's no big deal. That's where the action would be. So that I'm still kind of puzzled about that, but last night about reading that and thinking, I mean, writing that and then thinking, I don't think this is real.
Wow, that's interesting. As you were talking, right at the end there, I have a fear of being gaslighted. And as you were talking, that's my mom's fear. She used to say it all the time. People gaslight each other, people this, but she used that term gaslighting quite a bit. Because something will happen, and then I'll get into a downward spiral, an obsessive thought where it won't leave. I know enough to know that I'm in a association into childhood pain, and I'll either be accountable or give myself permission to be in the loop thinking. And when you were talking, usually what the thing or person that I'm afraid of being abandoned by, I'm good, I'm solid. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? So I'm gonna actually try that. My fear of abandonment gaslighted is not mine. It's my mom's, because
Yeah.
I'm real clear at people's motives and energy, and it's like, what's going on here? So Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that felt like a lightning bolt kind of
Yeah,
experience
yeah,
when that
yeah.
happened. Like, this isn't mine.
Right. This isn't mine. I like that. Yeah.
Well, there's what's interesting, Maggie Rose, is it's as I've listened to you share this experience, it's not just a thought. There was
Right.
an experience that, so that notion that this fear isn't mine included somehow your body released its addiction to that feeling
Hmm.
at the same time. It's
Yeah.
almost as if that happened first, and then your mind goes, "Oh, this isn't mine."
Yeah, it was when because I'd had conversations with my sister Barb, the one that I was talking to about this, about, she said, yeah, I've noticed that you think about yourself as an unhealthy person. And, and she never sees me that way.
Right.
And so that was why I was kind of sharing this with her. And, and it's like, yeah, yeah, you're right. It's like, I mean, it was gone. I mean, I might pick it up somewhere along the way, like
Yeah.
last night, writing those
Yeah.
things that I'm afraid of, and then thinking, no, these aren't mine. So
Wow.
that's amazing for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that has happened through um, doing this work of um, my talking about the fear, and that I'm going to die this time, and I'd be in tears, and then making an intention to be healthy or to be um, safe. Um, so it didn't happen. It seemed like it happened overnight, but it didn't happen overnight.
No,
There
no.
has been this whole process.
Um, every time I do the accountability tree process, find a truth that that is a character defect or a result of like the 14 traits in adult children of alcoholics, and then owning the trait. When I first got into adult children of alcoholics and I read that list, it wasn't in a laundry list style, it was in the problem, and they talked about it in the opening statement. It was like a relief that fear of criticism was actually a result that many people shared based on um, complex post-traumatic stress. I didn't know it at the time in 1988 when I got in, family of origin dysfunction, where you're not seen and heard, and the dysfunction is passed through the parents to the children. And then it's like, it's in alignment. It's in alignment with the dysfunction. And to know that I had a fear of criticism, fear of angry people, was confused love and pity, addicted to excitement. I'm like, oh my God. It was like, it was finally being heard and seen, and I wasn't alone. So it's an amazing, amazing process. I did a workshop um, in the Midwest someplace, and the name of the workshop was the laundry list, a way out. It's like,
Mm.
own these, no blame, no judgment, simply in alignment with this function, and in the owning of that. And that's part of what put this intentional living together the way it is. It's like simply saying the truth of where I find myself based on where I came from. And saying that truth, whenever I say the truth, I am afraid of criticism, I think resentful of anger, I'm not sure. I'm afraid of criticism, or I'm critical. That statement has encoded in it the trauma that created the cause in that truth. It's like it's a validating thing. It's like when I talk to my grandson, I see you're upset. I see you're sad. I see you're frustrated. it's my opportunity to just say where I'm at the time without blame or judgment, unconditionally holding that space for whatever the feeling or the thought, and the thought usually has a feeling attached to it, like I'm no good. Oh, no, I intend to hold myself in high regard. Yeah, amazing process. So.
Yeah, it really is. And, just watching other people have these awarenesses too. It's just, it's,
Yeah.
it just validates what's happening, or that it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So John, again, keeping in mind somebody might be watching this for the first time, can you deconstruct Maggie Rose's experience? What is it about doing this process that can lead to such a sudden, appears to be that moment, it was a sudden shift. I'm stuck with fear of I'm contributing to my own death. Oh my God, I'm a horrible person. To wait a minute, that doesn't belong to me, and I'm free of it.
Well, the easy answer is you can't heal it till you feel it. And as I wrote a list of character defects, and Maggie, your experience was, I'm hearing it differently this time. I haven't heard it expressed exactly like that. It's and when you said it, it's just like I realized that there's a fear I have that's completely irrational, and yet very strong. And when you said it's not mine, it's my mother's, I thought, oh my God, it's like naming, naming and being with. Like I have a fear of dying. I have a fear of, or I think I have this catastrophic thinking process. A hangnail turns into a funeral procession. It's like, um, and then just realizing, feeling that the feeling tone has information frequency in the frequency of the feeling. It's not rational. It's not, sometimes we don't have the detail. There's an awareness. Getting into our feeling and emotional bodies allow us to move into imagination, inspiration, and intuition, which none of these need proof to know what they know. And you just simply knew or realized, oh, they're not mine. And that realization was, okay, a signal to your body, okay, let that go. You don't need adrenaline anymore when you have this hangnail, because it's not yours. You're good. I'm good.
It's
Wow.
interesting you say adrenaline, because when I was writing that stuff last night and said, thinking, well, I don't think I really have this fear. And I thought, I think I just get adrenaline from these fears.
Yeah. Adrenaline happens to be the most widely used addictive substance on the planet. And that's in trait 8, addicted to excitement. When Tony A first wrote those, he had written addicted to fear, which is the adrenaline rush. And he didn't think people would own fear. So he put addicted to excitement and then explained it a little bit. But yeah, excitement is like bungee jumping. You get an adrenaline rush. That's on purpose. And I'm was addicted to adrenaline. And at times I want to say still, because I was struggling with this gaslighting thing. And me going into my body and just feeling the feelings, I now can tell the difference between an adrenaline rush and a feeling of sadness, because what I was feeling was adrenaline. Feeling of grief, a feeling of anger, a feeling of hurt, it's the adrenaline is actually keeping me out of my emotional feeling body for the purposes of survival, fight, flight, freeze, please, and out of my rational mind because what I was ruminating on didn't even make sense to me. It's like, no, no, no. And then I just found myself in this loop. So, yeah, adrenaline is highly addictive. So,
And my dad died at 68 from a brain tumor, and maybe 20 years after that, two of my sisters and I were talking about. I said, every time I get a headache, I think it's the blood-brain tumor, and they said, "Oh, me too."
mhm.
So they picked up that fear as well. And it's like, so here we all are running around for 20 years thinking we've got a brain tumor, and didn't tell each other this.
Right, right. Yeah. Um, this family of origin dysfunction is insidious, and my grandmother uh, died at 72 after multiple visits to the hospital. My mom died at 72 after multiple visits from the hospital. And my younger brother just turned 72 and he's had multiple visits to the hospital. So like it plays out. And I've had conversations with him about this is what happened to grandma, this is what happened to mom. This, I'm just like, I don't know, but it looks kind of similar here. And we can talk about it. And I actually talked to his wife and they're like, no, he's not going anywhere till our 50th anniversary, which is, 7, 8 years away from now. So, yeah, it's insidious.
My mom died at 80, and my sister Rita, who's a year younger than me, was convinced she was going to die in her 80th year.
Yeah.
She now is 83, and now she doesn't, I don't think she worries that much about dying now.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, she made it.
Yeah, she made it. My dad died at 50, and my mom died at 72. So as I approach 50, I go, not me, not me. I'm not carrying on this family tradition. I'm moving through this. When I got to 72, I said the same thing. I am not dying at 72. I'm moving through this. I'm living my life. I'm not living the life they prescribed and laid out for me based on this energetic marker of dysfunction. And so, yeah.
Oh, maybe she quit living my mom's life so.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at.
She, I mean, I thought she's gonna kill herself, not, not suicide, but I thought if she's worrying for a whole year about that she's gonna die this year, I was really afraid she might.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because what you focus on, you manifest somehow.
Yeah.
Well, let's pursue this a little bit more if you guys are open, because I think this is something we haven't talked all that much about, John,
Yeah.
on the podcast, which is and you actually mentioned it briefly in last week's podcast when we talked about, you were referring to Gabor Mate's observation that maybe 98% of chronic illnesses are related to complex PTSD, and you said, well, I think the other 2% is probably passed down from your parents' complex PTSD as inheritance. So there's something about our humanity where there's powerful messaging in the invisible that, first of all, we just noticed it, the three of us, we noticed it in ourselves, and we've spent a lot of time becoming aware. On the board behind you, maybe people can see there's that weird looking thing that's actually looks like a sponge to me, but it's John's version of an iceberg. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's right there. It is. And so he uses the iceberg metaphor because, like the iceberg, 90% of our mind is in a subconscious state. Just
Yeah.
like 90% of the iceberg is underwater. So that means that when we're looking at the iceberg, we can only see about 10% of it. Well, our mind is the same works on the same principle. It's designed such that we really can't comprehend more than 10% of what's available to us at any given time.
Right.
So, so I'm calling that the invisible
Okay.
realm, because I can't see it.
Mhm.
It's available to be seen, but in any given moment, I can't see it.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time in this work just becoming aware of what's in there. And I would not be so arrogant as to say I've now become aware of all of it, because it may not, it may be endless. The subconscious may be endless. So I don't know that I'm aware of all of it.
Well, it's not only endless. As I grow and expand, again, 9/10 of that is relegated to the subconscious,
Right.
so that I can perform function in the world. So I don't bump my head on low hanging objects. It's like that's the condition of the human being, is that 90% of their experience is relegated to a subconscious pool, where it's still active, alert to anything that it can see and remember that might be dangerous and or harmful, so that we can draw on it. The subconscious mind processes, and this, I don't know where I got the information, 4 million bits of information per second. So somebody, I'm in a room, somebody raises an eyebrow. Well, my subconscious is going through every little thing that happened to me as a child when the eyebrow got raised and I got hit, or I got abandoned. So it alerts me to, oh, something's about to happen. So, and then I manifest obsessive compulsive behavior, I manifest addiction, I manifest codependency, I manifest violent behavior out of this trauma. See, it's like I manifest things from the held information. Okay, well, okay, excuse me, this shit sucks. Okay, oh, yeah, true. It's painful, it's hurtful. I manifested this based on the information given to me. I'm a manifester. Well, Christ said it, you will do these and greater things. What does that mean? Well, I have the capacity to do whatever the picture I have in my mind of what he did. He's telling me I have that capacity inside me to manifest healing, to manifest all that stuff. Okay. So right now I want to say that's bad news, because I'm manifesting destruction and isolation and abandonment. Now, doing the accountability process, or knowing that I have a pool of information that's loaded with complex post-traumatic, I go over to the end result, and I'm gonna, like, I don't know if I'm gonna coin the phrase, but I'm gonna use this. I go to the display of complex post-traumatic stress. So my addiction, my violence, my isolation, my capacity to do harm and destruction is a manifestation of the trauma. If I own the complex post-traumatic display, which is addiction, codependency, for me, mean to the point of cruelty, and just say it, it validates the information that caused the meanness, the addiction, the codependency. In my saying the truth about where I find myself is, and I said this a little bit earlier, is encoded the frequency of the pain that caused that. So that validates my inner child, validates that hurt part of myself. It says to me, I see you hurting. I'm okay, because I say the truth, I mean to the point of cruelty, with no blame or judgment. And how I do that is I say, mean to the point of cruelty, and I take a deep breath, because as I'm breathing, I'm not thinking. That initiates healing, validation of the pain that caused it. Now I manifest integrity. I manifest, well, I want to say abundance. I manifest loving, caring relationships. I manifest respect. I manifest, did I say integrity? It's like, this is the manifestation of my subconscious. And I know that, so I take care of myself. If I have a feeling, I'm with that feeling, whatever it is, so I can discern where it's coming from. If it's coming from an old wounding, adrenaline, I take a breath. I'm not going to die. I do either the accountability tree or give myself permission to be obsessive, whatever the thing I'm trying to not do, and lower the adrenaline level. I intend to be kind. And that becomes now my point of attraction. So I'm radiating calmness, kindness, serenity, peace, compassion. It's incredible. It's incredible.
So that changes the subconscious then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You writing down your fears is validating the information that caused the fear. It's like, I'm afraid of, if I get a hangnail, I'm going to die. I'm grandiose, whatever, that would be mine. I have a fear of death. I have a fear of brain tumor. And you got that, well, wait a minute. No, I don't. It's like the thing I was ruminating with is trust issues. No, well, wait a minute. No, when I heard you say, no, I'm capable of trust. It's like, wait a minute, that's not mine. So validating self, which is simply telling the truth of where you find yourself. And then saying what you want to replace it with. Like, it is my intent to know that I am trustworthy in this case. And you just realizing it wasn't yours, and it goes, oh, okay. And you manifested this new awareness, and that becomes your point of attraction. Wherever you're vibrating at is your point of attraction. Before writing down your fears, you had, oh, I'm afraid of this. Oh, no, I'm not. So now you're vibrating here, and the next lesson's coming. Maggie rolls out. It's like, that's expansion. That's where we get to see things that we couldn't see from the vantage point I was at like 30 years ago. I'm seeing stuff I didn't have any idea existed from the vantage point of my capacity to own my behaviors and be accountable.
So it may be in the conscious part, or even if it's in the subconscious, it's still functioning. And I mean,
it's transmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, it's reframed. See, the conscious mind deducts. It's rational. It's cognitive. It can think linearly. That is used after a healing. I can notice now what's different. It's like before I was completely obsessed and no way out. Now I was obsessed for like 5 minutes and I'm here now. That was due to me being accountable, using the tree, the process, me giving myself permission, not resisting, what you resist persists. So I use my rational mind to see that difference, and I go, oh, maybe it'd be a good idea if I do that again. Because I see this as a result of being accountable, or actually teaching this, and or going to meetings, whatever situation I put myself in. This is the difference. I'm going to go and put myself in that situation again, or process, because I want more, at least. I am self-actualized. I am proactive. That's in the 12 steps, we talk about moving from reactive to proactive. There's a little break in between the reaction or the action. And that proactive is healthy. I now have agency where before I was a victim. Now I see the same thing happen and I go, no, I either want to do it or I don't want to do it. I got choice. I can play or I cannot play. I can, and this choice is through the healing. Where before I didn't have a choice. I was either going to knock some guy out or be weak. Now it's like, oh, this happened. I have a myriad of choices. I can show compassion. I can set a healthy boundary. I can say you need my help. I don't know. It's like, but the choice is now in the moment where before it was, I was stuck. So I must stop now.
That reminds me of something last week. My sister Rita, I'll keep running into things that trigger things for each of us. And she said something to me on this Zoom meeting. It's good we're doing these meetings because it's getting stuff out. But anyway, she said, she made a comment and I reacted to that comment. And then the next morning, she sent me this long text saying that she didn't think she'd be coming to these Zoom meetings anymore with my son because of what I said back to her about her comment.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we had another meeting. Then she sent me a text and said, and I'm sorry would have been helpful. In other words, I should have said, I'm sorry to her. And I didn't feel like I'd done anything.
Right.
So I just decided, no, there's not going to be any, I'm sorry. In the past, I would have just done that, sent her, a thing. And I thought, no, that's my boundary. And I also wanted to tell her, but I may just put this into action, that I don't want her threatening me anymore that she'll drop out of these meetings with my son.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not going to do this anymore. And I thought, you can come or not come, and I'm not going to say anything about not threatening me. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to not expect her there necessarily.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, so, I always think I have to make a statement about it, but it's like, I don't think I have to make any statement. I just need to change what I'm doing.
yep, exactly.
So that sounds to me like an example of John, what you were saying a minute ago,
Mm-hmm.
which is moving from victim to actor,
Mm-hmm.
or moving from reaction to taking action.
Right.
What jumped into my mind when you said that earlier is, and I think this applies here. This is an example. It applies in so many of our things in our lives. But I remember once you said something to the effect, or maybe Gabor Mate said this, but one of you guys said something to the effect of, children can only be victims.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
adults are not victims.
Correct.
And so it's like so this whole process that we're working on here is moving from identifying as victims, that is still identifying as wounded children, to identifying as actors, that we have the power. And that's the beauty of what you were saying earlier, is that the way I put it is, you cannot not manifest. We are manifesting. Little kids are manifesting life, but they're manifesting life as victims of their environment, their family. We're not independent yet. Or we
Correct.
can go, I'm not doing that. The story you like to tell, John, about, getting your diapered little butt in your room and telling your parents, don't do this. I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. I'm moving down the
Yeah.
street. We
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
do that,
No.
but
No.
adults can.
Yeah.
I mean, we can say what our boundaries are to our sisters if we're unhappy with what's going on. I can, I can say what my relationship is. I can say how I'm going to behave. And
Right.
I learned to do that. The power of this work for me is I learned to do that first with myself.
Hmm.
So there's that learning to identify the critical voice, which for a long time I felt that I was at war with myself, that I have this part of me that was critical and scary, frankly, and then this part of me that would cower and be fearful and be incapable of responding, and it was like I call it the internal civil war. And what I learned from this process is that in order for me to find a sense of peace, I had to befriend that which I feared. I had to do what adults do, which is take a risk, and instead of fighting, lay down lay down my arms and just say, hey, I give myself permission to have this crazy voice in my head.
Right.
And then eventually get away from the word crazy, because that's
Yeah.
critical. So
Yeah.
I give myself permission to have this conversation going on, and I'm open to finding out what it's here to teach me.
Right.
What do you want me to know? And the more I moved to that stance, the more I was becoming a conscious manifester of the life I wanted. And that in the accountability tree process, we go to, okay, what do I want? Once I've identified what's bugging me, or what I'm afraid of, or what I don't want to say out loud,
Right.
once I can identify that, then I move to befriending it by saying, okay, thank you for that information. And what do I want? Okay, I want peace. All right, I intend to be at peace. I intend to be at peace when this voice speaks. I intend to. So what I've discovered, much along the lines of Maggie Rose, what you shared about all of a sudden realizing you didn't need to carry your mom's fears anymore, is that I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, community, and health. And what I've discovered by saying that's what I want and using that intention, it's like that's what I wake up to in the morning. I wake up, I can't tell you the day I crossed the boundary from waking up in fear and anxiety to waking up in peace and joy and freedom, but it happened. And it's because I chose to be in ways I didn't understand. That's what I love about this process, John. I don't need to understand it. That I was a manifester, that I was not just, I was a manifester before, but now I was consciously manifesting the life I wanted.
Hmm.
And it makes all the difference in the world.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And that's what we're doing here. We're learning to take charge of creating the life we want. And this is the process that we use.
And I never really believed you could do that before. People say, well, you can, create the life you want, whatever. And it's like, I just didn't believe it. And
Well,
now I'm
yeah,
starting to believe it.
part of what the missing link, and I watch when I hear people come up with, like Gabriel Mate, complex post-traumatic stress, the accountability tree process, and I'm fortunate in the way that I gathered this material. It was mostly from the institution. I was at Folsom Prison for 5 years volunteering, and then I was at Sacramento County Jail for 15 years talking to convicts about the violence they did, and then slowly working through the mechanism that keeps us away from our truth, because I could see it blatantly in them. And I knew it was blatantly in me too, because I've been, except for the grace of God, I was sitting in that jail and there somebody else was telling me how to live my life. oh, I lost the thing. The shadow. The shadow is anything inside me I'm not willing to look at. As soon as I become willing to look in there and say the truth about where I've come based on the trauma that I received as a child, and I would say I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Well, of course, based on what happened to me as a child, that was a good idea to keep me safe. Now, it was destructive not only to me and my own body and my own stress level and my own immune system, it was destructive and disruptive to all the people around me. I'm not saying that part wasn't true. That part was true. That was the manifestation of unresolved trauma. Okay. So looking at the thing we don't want to look at, or the shadow, or trauma in the subconscious, which means we can't see it or know it because it's sub, we gain access to it from the truth of what? Manifestation. Mean to the point of cruelty is a manifestation of tremendous amounts of dysfunction and trauma. I mean, I saw it in the jails. I saw these guys like dangerous. It's like, holy shit, these people are, man, they can create some, and they have, and I have too. And then watch when they own, I'm violent. Oh my God. And it's like they come in with this mass, I'm dangerous and watch out, don't be careful around me. And it just goes away, and they manifest out of that based on I'm a bully, I'm violent, I'm a misogynist, I'm a sexist, I'm a loser, like I'm a loser because and the shift happens. And then we went to I intend to be, as soon as we found the truth, I mean to the point of cruelty, in that breath of realization and frequency of healing and validation, it is my intent to be kind, it is my intent to be gracious, it is my intent to be loving, it is my intent to hold myself in high regard, is infused into the subconscious and manifests. It's like, in spite of me. How do I move from mean to the point of cruelty to kind? Well, I don't know. And I've experienced moving from meanness to the point of cruelty to kind and gentle. Oh, looking at the shadow, owning the shadow. I got a poem about it's time to quit searching for the light and look in the shadow and get in there. And the line says, and grab the bastard by the neck and just say the truth. I'm mean. Anyway, I'm going to quit right now.
Well, thanks, John. We're coming to the end of our time together, and so before we close out, Maggie Rose, I want to see if there's any last minute thoughts or things that you want to say before I give John the last word.
No, I don't think so. It's really been interesting and productive to be here. Fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful that you could join us, and thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Any last thoughts to wrap up, John?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Maggie Rose, for how you put that process you went through together, because it was very, very insightful for me. It was like, oh my God. And again, looking at my fear is looking at what you're most afraid of, bringing that shadow into the light. And once the light shines on it, it's not what I thought it was. It's something different. It's a scared little child, that innocence that was in me that was covered up with a lot of trauma, and it comes through, and it's like, oh my God, I'm there, I'm in there. So, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thanks again, Maggie Rose. Thank you, John. Appreciate all of your thoughts and the share today. I had a great time, and look forward to the next one.
And thanks for all that you do for us with this.
Amen.
Uh-huh.
See you guys next time.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.